Hey guys, I thought I would just do a video talking about one of my more recent diecast collecting passions, which is the things you see before you. It's been about a year that I've spent assembling this collection. Started off, got a few for I think like $5 each at the Portland Indycar race last year. And so over the last year, I've been collecting these, and these are the 1990s Racing Champions Indycar 164s. All the ones you see before you are the kart slash PPG Indy World Series cars. So Racing Champions also made IRL diecast or for Indy Racing League, like this one, this Buddy Lazier. But I just wanted to focus on the kart ones today. So a little bit of history. Up until about I'd say 88 or so, there was no real like official IndyCar diecast line. There were, Matchbox made one-offs. Johnny Lightning made a few of the Indy 500 winners over the years. But then in those late 80s into the 90s, you start to see Matchbox, make lines of 10 or a set of 10 or like team transporters, pace cars, stuff like that. And you see Racing Champions, which has emerged as, a forerunner in NASCAR diecast. They begin to make these kind of, I'd say, okay quality for the time. They diecast, which they lacked graphics. They had plastic wheels and such. A little bit, I'd say, cartoonish posture, like big rear wheels over the small one. Didn't quite look like the actual Indy cars that were running at the time. But then enter 1992. Nigel Mansell wins the Formula One World Championship. And then the next year in 93, he comes over to America and wins the IndyCar Championship. And right about then is at like the beginning of IndyCar's like short golden era of like 4 or 5 or 6 years, basically until the end of the 90s, when it was like ranked immensely high in the international racing scene. You'd see drivers cross over from Formula One to IndyCar all the time. And so for that occasion, and for Nigel Mansell winning, Racing Champions built an entire new mold for their IndyCar line. And there's kind of about, I'd say, 4 distinct versions of this mold. You'll see the biggest difference here is the oval aero package versus the road course package. So you see this one has the little gurney flaps and the Hanford device on the back, while as this one has just a flat wing and a flat front wing as well. And so there's those two, and notice the noses on both of these are somewhat small. I'll compare that to, like, say, this one, which has a fatter nose. This is still the road course package, but you can kind of see that the nose is a little bit higher off the ground, and on the underside is flat, while as this one has kind of this, I'd say like this little jut right there. So there's slight differences in the castings, and here is an example of that larger nose versus an oval package, which the oval package one also has that kind of like cutout right under the front wing, while as this one is flat. So there's slight differences in terms of how these molds are like produced. I imagine that's just a difference in factories. These are all made in China. They may have had to contract different factories and such. But as a base, these are all kind of based off of a 1993 Lola, like the car that took Nigel Mansell to that 1993 championship. So these are not all of the racing championships, not by a long shot. These are ones that I've just collected because I found them cool or because they were cheap. But I just wanted to go through them one by one, kind of talk about them and talk about the stories, because I find these to be right in the center of the golden era of IndyCar diecast as well as IndyCar racing, because these were some of the higher quality IndyCar diecasts, and they were kind of right at the beginning of IndyCar diecast as a history. So first one we got, this is Jimmy Vasser's 1993 kart. So I want to say this was a Lola. It would make sense. I think it's I want to say Chevrolet engine. Goodyear tires, obviously. All the tires on these cars were rubber, whether they were Firestone and Goodyear or otherwise. This one's obviously got the oval package. It's very pretty looking car. This Conseco livery was used with a couple different numbers for AJ Foyt's team over the years. Yeah, very nice looking car. Forget how Vasser's success was in that year. But yeah, a very, very pretty livery on that one. Next one is, this would be Emerson Fittipaldi back when he raced for Penske. Obviously, big cutout right there is that would be Marlboro, but you can't put that on a Gidstoy, even if it's more of a collectible. So they replaced it with the generic kind of Penske logo. This one done on the oval package. It's really interesting the way they did it, because you would think for the Indy Racing League, which raced on only ovals, that they would make, you know, all of the cars on the oval package. But you have ones like this one, which is Davy Jones, which is on a road course package, despite the fact that that series was all ovals. So it's interesting to see the mix of how they had to produce these. So this is Emerson Fittipaldi's Mercedes-Benz engine, Penske, I believe, Penske in-house chassis and such is the bottom. All of these die-casts came with a stand, a little stand that you could put it on, and a collector's card. So this is Jill DeFerran's one right there. It just has their picture, a signature, their name, nothing on the back though, other than some basic information, no stats, no review or anything. But yeah, they all came with that. Next one, this is essentially identical almost to Emerson Fittipaldi's car, but this is Paul Tracy's car, so his teammate. This is still 1994, so still Mercedes engine and such. And you can see that there's the difference in the roll hoop. That was pretty standard across Penske cars. Just have that different colored roll hoop to help out spotters, and then the different number coloring as well for the number 3 car for Paul Tracy. And then next one we have is Robbie Gordon. I do not remember what team he was racing for at this time, maybe Hogan, but yeah, he was definitely a number 1 Ford driver. Ford was trying to develop him into a open wheel prospect. So you see, this is Valvoline. Valvoline had a very strong relationship with Ford at the time, with Mark Martin, stuff like that. Cummins, this is the walk. This is also on the oval package, and it's got that small nose, so it's got the little lip on the bottom. But yeah, Ford power plant, Goodyear Eagle tires. The other thing about these diecasts is they actually roll really well, considering the all metal base and body. So that's another nice thing. And then we have Willie T. Ribs. Of course, one of 2 African-American drivers to qualify for the Indy 500, the other being George Mack. This was from his 1994 season for Walker Racing. They finally had enough merchandising, partially helped by Bill Cosby, which you see on the little wing right up there. They had enough funding to do an entire season, which went, I'd say, mediocre. There was definitely much more expectations for Willie, but a 7th place finish at Michigan after the majority of the field crashed out was still a very good result for him at the time and for this team. This is again on that kind of small nose, so you can see the little lip underneath the wing. Goodyear tires, as most of the Ford runners were. Yeah, this one's a very pretty car, actually, just in terms of the coloring. I really like the livery design on this one. Next one, we move into the 1995 cars. Here's Robbie Gordon's one again, still with that Valvoline support, this time at Walker Racing. The 1995 was Robbie's most successful year in his kart career. He got 3 wins. And equaled his all-time best points finish. This car is a very classic number 5 car livery with that deep blue on the top and the other streams of red and blue. Definitely up there as one of the better Valvoline schemes of all time. This one, again, on that short nose, still the lip, and the Goodyear tires for the Ford power plant. But the next one is the first one that we see with the larger nose. This is Robbie Gordon's teammate, Christian Fittipaldi. And so you can see kind of the difference on the bottom of Fittipaldi's car. It's flat, whereas Gordon's car kind of has that lip. It's a larger nose on Fittipaldi's car. So Fittipaldi was coming out of not really a bad Formula One career, just a kind of mediocre one. He spent a couple years with Minardi. I think he raced once for Footwork. But yeah, he came over to kart, had Brazilian sponsorship from Bardal and some other companies. His first year wasn't extremely eccentric, but the biggest thing for him was finishing second at the Indy 500, which was a great result. But yeah, this car looks great. Looks like the Brazilian flag from the top down. Of course, Fittipaldi was a Brazilian race car driver. Yeah, so this is on that larger nose, still on the road course package, but you can kind of see some of the associate sponsors lined up there, like Cummins and Valvoline, that were on both cars. And then next one we have is Gilles de Ferran. This was one of his earliest seasons in kart. This was a Mercedes. I'm not sure why, but they did not start putting the Mercedes logos on Mercedes-powered cars until later. I'm not sure quite what the reasoning is for that. But this was number 8. This was for Hall Racing. Says it right on the tip of the nose there. Obviously, the yellow submarine livery that's so famous. I believe this was a good year for Gilles. I think he won a couple of races. This again on that oval package with the larger nose, so it's flat on the bottom. And yeah, of course, part of the biggest thing of these is having both the metal chassis and the metal body, which you don't see on Indycar diecast anymore, partially just because they're more intricate. By the time that these ones come out, Indycars don't really look like this anymore. You'll see they have a much longer shark fin and other stuff. Like I believe this car was a Mercedes-powered Reynard, so there would be differences in this back half of the chassis as well. So racing champions didn't really ever feel the need to update these models, so they kept using these until the end, which by the time that they were done using them, the kart cars looked nothing like them anymore. But they're still a great mold. Next up is Hiro, I want to say Matsushita. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right or if it's Matsushita or whatever. But this was his 1995 car. Obviously, a lot of Japanese sponsorship, Panasonic, YKK. This was a Ford engine again. I forget what team this is for. It's one of the back marker teams. Goodyear tires. It's got that lip, which is kind of annoying and a little bit inaccurate, but it's got that narrower nose as well. Yeah. One of the biggest missing parts of this set is the fact that there is no diecast for the 1995 kart champion, which was Jacques Villeneuve. So they couldn't get licensing for the players diecast or for the players sponsorship, but they decided not to make that diecast. Next one up, This is again on the larger nose. This is Danny Sullivan's Pac West racing car. This is one I've recently just got. This looks very pretty with the kind of confining stripe, a very large number compared to some of the other cars. The Pac West team decided to go big on that one. Ford engine, which means Goodyear tires. The tire on that is kind of falling off a little bit though, so that's unfortunate. It's also got this orange dot right on the end. I'm not actually sure what that came from. But yeah, also with a lot of these on the back wing, there is the sponsor too, which looks pretty cool if you ask me. And then next up is Raul Boesel. So this was after his run with Dick Simon Racing, which was close to the peak of his kart career. So he joined Ray Hall Racing, which at the time I believe was also running Mercedes engines. So once again, no Mercedes logos on the back of that, which is an interesting decision. I'm not sure why they took that. This is again on that small nose, so it's got the lip. It's got Firestone tires on it. Or I wonder actually if this was supposed to be Goodyear. I know a few of these I accidentally switched around, so you see the Goodyear logo there. So I'm certain that that's probably actually supposed to be Goodyear tires. Pretty looking car, all things considered. It's got the shell, which was also on the Bobby Rahal car, which was number 9, which I do not have. Next one, Alessandro Zampedri, who got a full-time chance with Peyton Coyne Racing, the team that eventually became Dale Coyne Racing that we know today. He got a couple starts in 1994 and then moved up to a full-time run in 1995 and didn't really do that great and was out of the team at the end of the year. This is, again, that small nose with the lip. Got the Goodyear tires because it was a Ford-powered race car. Yeah, you see the Me-Jack logo on the back. Pretty similar, actually, to the Willie T. Ribbs 1994 car in terms of pattern. Not sure if that was just design choice or if that's how it looked in real life. Next one we got, one of the storylines of 1995 was Scott Pruitt returning to Patrick Racing. He got a win, almost was in contention at the end of the Indy 500 before he hit the catch fence. But this car, which is also newer, I've picked up, looks very pretty with the kind of spiraled off stripes on the side. Number 20. This is, again, a Ford-powered car. They chose Firestone tires, though, as Firestone was the primary sponsor. Yeah, this car looks great. So then, fast forward a year, 1996, Racing Champions made significantly less IndyCar diecast. In 1995, they had nearly the whole field filled out. In 1996, they had far less. And so I only have 3 from 1996 to show off. This one is Michel Jourdain's Dick Simon Racing Herta's car, which I think looks very pretty, especially with the white seat, which is due to the white base. This is, again, the larger nose, so it's got a flat bottom. Ford power plant, Goodyear tires, so on. Got lots of Mexican sponsorships. I believe this was very similar to the car that Carlos Guerrero ran in 1995, so they're almost interchangeable. Next one is Stefan Johansson, Formula One veteran of a long time. This was his Bettenhausen racing car with the Alumax sponsorship, the Mercedes power plant. So they brought Mercedes logos back for 1996. So maybe 1995 was just an off year. But I'm not sure why they were not present that one year. This car looks very pretty with the almost deep sea blue. It's not quite black, but yeah, very deep blue. This looks very much similar to Patrick Carpentier's 1997 car. Yeah, and then next one we got Andre Ribeiro's number 31 Honda. So I want to say that this is one of the only Honda ones I have. Yeah, one of 2. So you can see Firestone tires. This one looks very pretty with the kind of, I want to say like the star formation of yellow coming off the front end of it. This one again, long nose and the road course package. And so by this time in 1996, the kart cars don't look anything like this mold anymore. But yeah, still a very, very cool car. So then 1997, Hot Wheels returns. They buy into, they've bought into NASCAR, and they returned actually to sponsoring the number 44 Richard Petty racing car for, I believe Kyle Petty was driving it at the time. They sponsored him full time. So in addition to releasing a new NASCAR line, they released a new IndyCar line. And so they split that deal with Racing Champions. So Hot Wheels covered, I think, 10 of the cars. Racing Champion did quite a few of them. They did them only on this large, the oval package. They no longer did the road course package. They did it all on these because that just looked more accurate to the cars by the time that we got here. But yeah, at that point, the Hot Wheels mold was brand new. It looked way more accurate, but you still had a couple of kart holdouts. So here I have Nobuharu or Hiro Matsushita's 1997. This is a Toyota. Yeah, so this was the in the early phases of Toyota's IndyCar involvement. This car just looks beautiful to me. This is like peak paint scheme. Yeah, this one I gather is pretty rare. I think the only other one of these that I found on eBay was like $100 from Brazil. It's got a little damage. It's missing right here. It's missing the top suspension part. You can see compared to the left side. But other than that, it's in still pretty shape, and it's a very pretty race car. So then after 1997, kart kind of they kind of dip out of having diecast altogether. 1998 is when those Hot Wheels cars were produced from the 1997 season. And after that, they kind of just take a break from diecast. And in the meantime, IRL, has these cars from Racing Champions, but they also switched to Mysoto for a year, which truly was disastrous. And so as a whole, IndyCar diecast kind of simmered down for a little bit. And then you have this out of nowhere in 2002. Michael Andretti, by this time, is beginning to get situated with team ownership and his alliance with Team Green Racing. At this point, kart cars look absolutely nothing like the 1993 or 94 Lola, which this is based off of. But they choose to make this one-off of Michael Andretti's Team Green Honda. And the interesting bit about this is Bridgestone tires, which, as far as I can gather from my research, this is one of 4 IndyCar diecasts ever produced to have Bridgestone tires, which makes sense when you think about, the long-term commitments of Firestone, which is a Bridgestone brand, to the Indy 500 and to the sponsorship surrounding that. To have Bridgestone tires on a diecast is very, very interesting. And this is a very interesting car for them to be publishing it on this mold, which is nearly 10 years out of date. Yeah, so that was my little collection of the 1990s Racing Champions kart 1/64 scales. After that, IRL got the licensing for Johnny Lightning diecast, which eventually evolved into the Greenlight Collectibles. Hot Wheels had another 1-year stand in 2012 when they got part of the deal, and then it was back to Greenlight for 2013 up until today, when we still get the Greenlight diecast that we know. But in my humble opinion, this is some of the best quality IndyCar diecast ever produced, right in the heart of when IndyCar was at its height. And yeah, I just wanted to share that. So thanks for watching.